Look up. The eagle doesn't ask permission to rise. It simply does. While other birds scatter at the first sign of a storm, the eagle welcomes it, using the violent winds to lift itself higher. In a world where many shrink, delay, and doubt, the eagle becomes the symbol of those who choose to rise above the noise. Today is not about motivation. It's about a mentality that refuses comfort, refuses the ground, and refuses to live life at the level of the flock. This is a call to wake up the hunter within you, the leader within you, the part of you built for altitudes most never see. If you're ready to rise, then let's talk about the eagle mentality. Rise first, because hesitation is where most men lose themselves. A man's greatest battles often happen in the moments before he acts. The overthinking, the doubt, the silent negotiations with fear. When a man moves before his fear gathers strength, he discovers something powerful. Action creates clarity faster than reflection ever will. Men are wired to respond to challenge, and when they rise before questioning, they align with that instinctive drive to lead, to break ground, and to define direction rather than wait for permission. Rise first, because women watch how a man positions himself before the world pushes back. Women don't look for perfection. They look for certainty in motion. They seek a man who steps forward even when he doesn't have all the answers, because that willingness signals resilience, resourcefulness, and inner steadiness. When a man rises quickly, he demonstrates a mentality that says, I will figure it out on the way up, and that confidence creates trust long before results appear. Rise first, because questioning too early keeps a man grounded when he was built for altitude. When you move before everything makes sense, you train your mind to respond with strength rather than caution. You condition yourself to embrace responsibility, pressure, and the unknown. The very elements that shape the kind of man others naturally follow. Storms are fuel, because adversity is the one force that exposes what a man truly believes about himself. When life hits hard, most men instinctively brace, retreat, or question their capacity. But the eagle mentality demands the opposite, meeting the storm head on, using its force to climb rather than collapse. Men are psychologically built to grow through resistance. Without challenge, their strength stays dormant. Their purpose stays hidden, and their confidence remains untested. A storm doesn't weaken a man. It reveals the altitude he's capable of reaching. Storms are fuel, because women pay close attention to how a man handles pressure. It's not the presence of problems that shapes their perception, but the posture a man chooses in the middle of them. A woman can sense when a man lets chaos define him, just as she can feel when he rises above it with steadiness and direction. When a man uses challenges as momentum, she sees someone who can protect, provide clarity, and stay anchored when life becomes unpredictable. That emotional stability becomes more valuable than any material success. Storms are fuel because they reshape a man's mental framework. They force him to confront discomfort, sharpen discipline, and build emotional muscle. A man who learns to ride the winds instead of hiding from them becomes the kind of leader others trust, because he has been strengthened, not stopped by the very forces meant to break him. Distance is power, because a man cannot rise while standing in the middle of noise that keeps him grounded. Men often stay surrounded by environments, habits, or people that shrink their ambition, dilute their confidence, and distract their focus. Elevation requires separation, stepping back from the familiar, long enough to see where growth is being limited. When a man creates space, even temporarily, he gains clarity that only solitude can provide. He begins to understand his direction, his values, and his next level without the constant pull of outside influence. Distance is power, because women observe how intentionally a man manages his world. They notice when a man allows chaos and low-value relationships to drain him, just as they notice when he protects his energy and chooses environments that sharpen rather than soften him. When a man distances himself from what holds him back, he signals emotional maturity and self-respect. It shows he isn't led by comfort or approval, but by purpose. That kind of discipline communicates stability, something women instinctively recognize as strength. Distance is power, because a man cannot elevate while clinging to the same patterns that kept him grounded. When he steps away from the noise, he creates room for discipline, vision, and mental resilience to grow. He gains the perspective required to lead rather than follow, to operate from intention rather than reaction, and to transform himself into someone capable of rising far higher than his surroundings ever allowed. Seeing beyond is essential, because a man's vision determines the altitude of his life. Most men stay grounded not because they lack ability, but because they only look as far as their current circumstances. When a man trains himself to see past the obstacles, past the fear, past the immediate convenience, he taps into a deeper intelligence that guides his direction. Vision expands his confidence, broadens his ambition, and energizes his purpose. A man who sees beyond no longer lives day to day. He begins living towards something higher. Thinking beyond is essential because women quickly recognize the difference between a man reacting to life and a man creating it. They did not just listen to what a man says. They watch the scope of his decisions, the depth of his thinking, and the intention behind his actions. When a man thinks beyond the moment, he becomes predictable in the best way, steady, strategic, and grounded in logic rather than impulse. That kind of mental discipline communicates reliability, and reliability builds trust. Being beyond is essential because embodying higher standards transforms a man from ordinary to exceptional. When he aligns his behavior with the bigger vision he holds, he separates himself from the crowd. He acts with purpose, speaks with clarity, and carries himself with a presence that others naturally follow. Becoming beyond means living in a state where excellence is not a performance. It's a default setting. Hunting with precision matters because a man's greatest losses often come from acting out of emotion rather than intention. When a man lets frustration, insecurity, or urgency guide his decisions, he moves blindly, swinging at everything and hitting nothing. Precision requires patience, clarity, and strategy. It means choosing targets that align with purpose rather than impulses that rise and fall with mood. When a man trains himself to focus on what matters most, he becomes efficient, disciplined, and far more effective in the pursuit of his goals. Hunting with precision matters because women can immediately feel the difference between a man who reacts and a man who leads. Women instinctively observe how a man handles pressure, disappointment, and responsibility. They notice when he allows emotions to derail his judgment just as clearly as they notice when he remains composed and deliberate. A man who moves with precision signals emotional maturity, self-control, and direction, qualities that create safety and trust. It's not that he suppresses emotion. It's that he doesn't let emotion make his decisive. Ions for him. Hunting with precision matters because a man's success depends on his ability to remain calm in the chaos. When he pauses long enough to think, plan, and act with intention, he builds a psychological advantage over the circumstances that try to overwhelm him. Precision sharpens his instincts, strengthens his discipline, and transforms his energy into measurable progress. By choosing accuracy over impulse, he becomes someone who doesn't just chase opportunities. He captures them with purpose, confidence, and unwavering focus. Leading from above matters because a man cannot guide others while standing in the same confusion they're trying to escape. Most men try to lead from within the crowd, hoping influence will come from proximity or acceptance, but true leadership requires distance, mental, emotional, and sometimes physical. When a man rises above the noise, he gains the clarity needed to see what others cannot. He becomes the one who anticipates challenges instead of reacting to them, the one who moves with purpose rather than pressure. Elevation is not about superiority. It's about perspective. And perspective is what grants a man the ability to lead with intention. Leading from above matters because women instinctively look for a man who stands out through his stability, not his volume. They pay attention to how he carries himself when others panic, how he thinks when others react, and how he thinks when others trace direction, when others chase approval. Women don't follow the loudest man in the room. They follow the one whose presence communicates certainty. When a man positions himself above the emotional swirl of the moment, he becomes someone she can trust, not because he dominates, but because he remains grounded while others are shaken. That steadiness becomes a defining marker of strength. Leading from above matters because a man's behavior becomes the atmosphere that others experience when he rises above excuses, above drama, above the limitations of those around him. He sets a standard that invites others upward. Men naturally respect the one who operates with calm confidence, who makes decisions from clarity rather than chaos, and who refuses to be pulled into the smallness of group thinking. By elevating himself, he creates space for others to grow through his example. And when a man leads from above, he shows that leadership isn't about commanding people. It's about becoming the version of yourself that others naturally choose to follow.